Y'all, this woman literally clawed her eyeballs out of her head. This story needs a trigger warning, but let it also serve as awareness for what exactly drugs can do to you. So 20-year-old Kaylee Mutthart was from Anderson, South Carolina, and she was a former straight A student that she will now never see again, and she must wear prosthetics for the rest of her life. This is because a very dangerous drug led her to claw her eyes out one day when she was extremely high. Reportedly, on the weekends, she would smoke marijuana with her friends. It was said that addiction ran in her family, so for a while there, she was careful to stay away from the really strong and more dangerous drugs. She dropped out of school at the age of 17, and she had the hopes of working more and saving money to go to college. But it was said her decision to drop out of school put her in a very bad place. Reportedly, she started hanging out with the wrong crowd and started partying all the time. And that eventually led her to abuse the more hardcore drugs, and she also had a mental breakdown. It was said just a day before this incident where she clawed her eyes out, her mom had talked her into going to rehab. Just days before going to rehab, she took a larger dose than normal of meth. This was kind of like her last party dose before she went to try and get clean. While she was so high on this meth, she kept having thoughts that everything was going to abruptly end and that everyone was going to die if she didn't tear her eyes out of her head right then and there. She says she doesn't know why she was thinking that, but without a doubt, she felt like at that time it was the rational thing to do and she had to do it right then. She said her memories of that incident are a bit unclear, but she does remember she felt like she had to go meet somebody at a church. Reportedly, while she was on the way to that church, her friend that she had been living with drove by her. Her friend called out the window to Kaylee saying that she had locked up the house and asked Kaylee if she had the other key. Kaylee said that in her messed up mind, being locked out was a sign that her sacrifice was the key to saving the world. So she says she then put her thumb, middle finger, and pointer finger into each eye and gripped and twisted each eyeball and pulled until each eye popped out of the socket. It was then said all the drugs that was taken had numbed her pain, and that had a pastor not heard her and come running to her to help her, that she literally would have clawed to her brain. The preacher said when he found her, she was holding her eyeballs in her hand and squished them, but they were reportedly still attached to her head. She said at that very moment she was thinking that someone had to sacrifice something very important to get the world right, and that the person was her, and she just got on her hands and knees pounding the ground asking, why me? She was then taken to a hospital and had to be pinned down by 7 people. It was said she was fighting the restraint so hard that her wrist hurt for days. Doctors reportedly did an emergency surgery to remove all that was left of her eye and to save what was left of her optic nerve and to prevent infection. She said that now that she is blind, she is still optimistic, but activities she used to enjoy like playing the guitar and piano are now harder. She said she'd rather be blind though than dependent on drugs. Reportedly, Kaylee said the thing that led her to spiraling was when a friend gave her a joint laced with meth when she was 19, and she said that sent her into a high state where she believed she was closer to God. She says she chased that high for years and went from smoking meth to injecting it. So she now shares her story as a way to raise awareness for young people who may be tempted to try drugs. Because as you can see, one thing leads to the other to the point where you're no longer in your right mind. Let her story serve as a reminder that drugs are bad and should never be started. Prayers to her that she continues to heal and stay sober. For more content, be sure to give me a follow, and if you're on YouTube, click subscribe.